Right, David Paul here. Thought I'd just do a very quick update on where I'm at now. I'm suffering with the heat here, and I'm getting very little work done per day, but I am getting work done per day. So what you got to do, if you're in that position, is do what you could kind of call keystone or key turner activities that are going to make a difference later on. The absolute most refined, useful thing you can think of doing. Okay, so what I've done lately is I got on my last report, I got this beam in, this concrete beam, and that's sitting beautifully, and it's also straight, and it's 178 millimeters from the edge of the wall over there, and on that side it's 178 millimeters. So I checked them. That beam is where I want it to be. So this one's just got to follow suit. So therefore, that one is kosher. It's ticked off, it's good. This morning, what I was going to do is we're going to use that ratchet method to drag this beam across into its hole. But you run a danger with dragging beams around is that they can sort of turn over, roll instead of drag. And these beams, if they're not in the upright position and you get them tipped over, they are such a beast to get back up again. So I come up with the idea, what I'll do is I'll continue with my attachment up to the top rafter there, got top cross beam there. And what I'll do is I'll pull on here. So I had this pulling like this in that way on that beam. So that gives a two force components on that beam. One force component trying to drag it across, a small one, and a very big one trying to pull it up and lift it up off the ground. So therefore what happens is every time you ratchet it, it tends to want to slide sideways, and it sort of radiuses down, and it just sort of gently walks into the hole. I had to give it a little bit banging about there. It needed 1/8 of an inch extra clearance to clear that stone there, so I had to chisel away and get it in position. So that there is now lined up with the centre of that window, which is the centre of the house, and there's a groove in the stonework outside to carry away water, rainwater, so I've lined it up with that. Does that say that this position here is central? Not necessarily, but looking at it by eye, I think I'm within a centimetre or two, not much more than that. So the next thing was, I started on this beam now. This beam I already had in position. I'd be interested to notice if this was 178 centimeters to here. Not that it's absolutely vital, because this is a separate room, so this room won't look out of symmetry with the other one, because you'll have to walk out of this room into another one to see that one. So what goes here doesn't necessarily have to go there. And also the front of the house may be narrower than the back of the house. None of these things are never built straight, so what is the center there is not necessarily the center over here, so I've got to do an overall measurement to make absolutely sure of that. Okay, so on the top here, this is Portugal. I call this Portugal because it's a piece of Portugal sticking into the house, and that was left there to take the load off the fireplace by the original creators of the house. Now I'm going to chisel a lot of that away but still have a large fireplace there, and I'm also going to reinforce it with reinforced concrete, and the big Mexican style Mexican style, I don't know what you call them. I think they're called Kiva stoves. Fireplace, cooking stove combined, pizza oven thing. And that's that, so that's there. This has to come across a little bit. It's jamming on that big stone at the back there. And so there's also debris and all sorts here, which if I dig it away will cause this to fall down a bit, to lower down a bit. And then it'll probably ride underneath that stone and sit home just fine. And it'll be perfectly square and everything will be hunky-dory and dandy. And then that'll all get concreted over with the reinforced concrete. And that's that. So I could actually extend this out with this plateau here with a cantilevered reinforced concrete plate. Don't think I'll do that though. No, I don't think I'll do that. And that's it. So what is next to be done? Well, I was trying to think of when just recap here. Next visit to Portugal, I've got weighed up the sawmill. I've got it all organised to get the cross beams, which will go in here, running in this direction. And they are like tree slices. They're rather like scaffolding beams, except they're much thicker. A little bit of analysis here. This is the thickness of a scaffolding beam, what I originally had last year. And if you stand on that, or if you can see, there's a little bit of a spring in that. It will take a load of people walking on it, but I'm not happy with that. That's too springy. If I were to double that, that'll go up, the stiffness will then go up 8-fold. If I triple it, well, it'll go more. 27-fold, I believe, if I triple it. And I've got a depth here, a working depth here to the top of that window, which will at least, no, in fact, I can do more than triple it, but I'll at least double it with planks running across in this direction. So the idea is that the plank is not exclusively just a plank, it's also a beam. It's just a wide beam. Because a plank will become a beam if you make it thick enough. I mean, this is a beam, this is a plank. Is it a plank or is it a beam? It's a beam because it's being used that way. But I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't have the entire wall done in, the entire ceiling here done in beams. An idea I'm going to try out, maybe back home on the back in the UK on the tiny house. Okay, so in will go those beams, those beam planks, running the full length. They'll have what you call a waney edge on them, which I will then have trimmed true, but not all the way through. So when you stand underneath here, looking up at your ceiling, what you will see is patterns in the wood, indicating that, you know, they've come off a tree rather than out of an industrial manufacturing process. So the next big issue here is that tiny house idea of last year, still a valid idea. I'm going to do it. So what I have to do here, I'm calling this digging out your house, because I've got all this debris and rubbish in here. I've got hideous stuff on the walls outside. So the idea now is to reveal the house. And I would say a priority obviously is to clear this area here. I need to bring over those roof tiles and get them in storage here in case he decides to throw them out. That's ASAP. So clear this, get the roof tiles in, get some of the scrap wood that I've been offered to create a sort of ceiling here, up here, then drape some of this polyethylene sheet over it, and now you've got a little tiny cabin thing that you can stay in instead of having to be out in the open air. And then I can go and purchase a proper bed and sleep in a proper bed like a normal human being. That's going to be so good. Okay, so there I am with my tiny cabin thing. I was going to use the entire space here from the door all the way back to there. Now I decided, don't do that. Don't do it. Because the purpose of this is it's a place to sleep and retreat to when the weather's not good. But it doesn't have to be a proper full-size home. And the smaller I make it, the easier it is to heat. So when I get back to the UK, I'll be buying a camp stove, which when I return here will come here with me, and I'll have it. I will install it here, and it'll exit through the wall there. The chipping off that I'm doing on the other side, I will not chip off. So all the muck and filth that goes on the wall as a consequence of burning this fire will just affect material that's going to get chipped off anyway. And that's that. So here I am. I've got my little tiny cabin thing, and now I can come and go to Portugal at any time of the year I wish and not fear freezing to death. And that's that. Now, the big tamale here, I haven't worked out the structure of this yet, but if you look up at that ceiling there, it's absolutely enormous. So basically, fundamentally in this house, there's the potential for a third floor, almost a third floor. So, as I said, I'm going to put a steel roof on here, steel beams and so on. Not the steel roof, the terracotta slate terracotta tiles are going on top. But with that huge height, where that cross beam runs across, I'll be having lots of steel, square box section steel beams. And you can put some planking on top of that. Put a little handrail on top of it, although it's pretty much impossible to fall through if you're considering the gap size. I could put netting over it to stop that, to stop the kids falling through. But anyway, there'll be a central strip of planked centre there, which creates a mezzanine floor. But what's wrong with that mezzanine floor is the fact that at my height sitting up there, I'll pretty much use up all that space. I think it's just possible to have a seating mezzanine floor up there. And there's a as I'm talking on this video, my brain is like sort of refiguring out a new idea, and I've just come upon a new idea. So the idea is that if I were to donate some of this height down, donate some of the height on a lower level, and not have such a high ceiling up there, then I could have a higher ceiling on the top. Well, how the hell are you going to do that? Because that's the triangle there. Well, the idea is to have a steel beam which dips down here, runs across on a flat section, and then dips back up there again. But the problem with that is that you're creating a structure which is not a simple triangle anymore. And those beams are not resisting tension and compression forces only anymore. You're now asking them to resist bending forces. Now it is steel, and it should be well within the capability, but I've got to do some thinking on that. And if I can find some way to break it up into triangles such that that's not happening, maybe by putting extra beams in here, then that I can negate all of that effect. In fact, I can do that. But another thing, as I was saying, I'm having an idea whilst I'm talking to you, is that at the top here, I'm going to be putting a a ring gird around the house. So you take the edge of the roof off and you go around and you shutter it round and you put a load of rebar in and you go right round the top of the roof, and that ties in the roof nice and tightly. Structurally, it's a really, really good idea. Just tediously slow. And if you go and watch the Portugal project with Jasper there, that's a thing he did. And when I do it, I will go to town on the rebar, make sure I've got plenty of that in, and it will be strong. But the consequence of doing that is the ceiling will now be about 9 inches higher than it was before. So that brings in the potential for maybe having a bit more space at the top. So that is a possibility, but I still favour the idea of this dipping ceiling. The reason is because I'll just get a monstrously large amount of extra space. And on top of that, you've got to consider that this ceiling, this roof has got to be insulated. And I've pretty much, although I don't like this stuff, that expanded cork board, it looks too carbonised to me. Looks like the candidate for the job because it's extremely lightweight. And and you can just create panels for it and just pop them in like ceiling tiles. Now, if you ever want to stick your nose in and find out what's going on with your roof, I don't know, maybe you got a rat up there or whatever, you can take those panels out and examine and then just pop it back in again. And, you know, incredibly good insulator. And fire hazard wise, it's pretty good as well. That's what the stuff evolved to do. Okay, so that's the state of play at the moment. So the next thing will be clear out this area and start bringing in tiles. And then I guess that's pretty much the end of it all. And as much as I can tolerate, I will chip off stuff off the front of the house. The problem is the heat is so high here. It's like 30 degrees. And I cannot figure out why I've just lost all my energy. But I think it's, you know, there's a term called heat exhaustion. And they didn't make it up off the top of the head. You know, it's a real term. And it means being exhausted due to the heat. So I guess that must be it. Because I don't feel like this in the UK. So I guess that's that. So it's not a question of quitting or anything like that. It's just a question of just taking it easy and taking it slowly. Okay, that's it. Begin to feel a bit more like home, this. Especially when I start to put some boards over the top of there. So, anyway. Adios, paalam, goodbye, Jesus be with you.